looks like it worked. So, welcome to Fail Along With Me, a little cheesy intro with a little sonic screwdriver there. I like Doctor Who. So welcome to the stream. Basically, as we've done last night, this stream is all about failing until we succeed. So getting it wrong until we get it right. And last night what we did is we went through Malware Unicorn's reverse engineer workshop called RE101. She first gave that at DEF CON last year, 2017. And I think she had all of like 1 hour to give this course that I think I got through section 5 by myself in 3 hours last night. So this is a lot of content. Luckily, she was kind enough to just pop into my stream without me having asked her. She gave me a lot of great tips, and she gave us a lot of great tips because, cause she was there with everyone else. Unfortunately, I didn't record any of that, so no one will get to see, what was done there. But luckily, I failed and made a few mistakes in the things I did yesterday, which means you and I get to embark on an adventure of going back over Section 5, which is where we basically started actually dealing with the malware we were reversing. So I'm going to just blast through and just talk about what's in each section. I'm going to introduce you to my lab environments as far as what this is going to concern. Normally when I do Fail Along With Me, I plan to already have some idea of what I actually want to do, what I want to accomplish. I want to have guides that I've either created through reading things online, or I want to have guides that other people have already made. So Reverse Engineering 101 became actually a very good, easy first stream for me, and Malware Unicorn was kind enough to be cool with me doing this. She said it's free, it's out there on there. She published it so that everyone can get on there and learn. So thank you very much, Malware Unicorn. She has a wonderful tool called Zori out there as well, and she released this at Black Hat/DEF CON. You can find it on GitHub on the Endgame GitHub, but it is hers, and basically this is an automation-ready disassembly and static analysis library that consumes shellcode or PE binaries and provides triage analysis. It works in 64-bit, 32-bit, PE, PE+, plain shellcode. Basically, it outputs the JSON of the disassembly, functions, imports, it manages image and stack memory. We might end up going through and using Zori later, in a later stream, when I figure out how to use it myself just a little bit. Because it's such a new tool, I might have to go through and figure out just kind of some of the stuff of how it works. Or maybe I do that on stream live, and, maybe she's kind enough to be in the chat, maybe not, but we'll just see. We'll see if I learn anything, because ultimately this is really a selfish reason for me streaming, is so that I learn. But also, passively, you guys get to learn because it's called Fail Along With Me. So I get to go through failure, so you don't have to face it alone, and we get to actually embark on this journey together. So, yesterday, last night, for about 2 hours, we went through sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Section 1 just deals with the fundamentals of the safe virtual malware analysis environment. Basically, she provides you with pretty much everything you're going to need. In a setup environment, we're using VirtualBox. She has 2 boxes. One is Ubuntu, one is Windows 7. The Ubuntu box is basically just a sniffer VM. It's meant to do Wireshark analysis, and it's also meant to do iNetSim. iNetSim is a great tool that allows you to simulate the internet. It will receive traffic, but then it will also spit back some information as well. In this case, we were receiving DNS queries from the malware from our victim station, and then returning any query in DNS. So if they're looking for maliciousite.org, for instance, it gets returned back its own IP address. So that way that bot or that command and control tries to go and talk out on whatever it's supposed to talk out to the iNet simulator. So that's a way of kind of sandboxing this. We're using a Windows 7 operating system box for the Victim. It's 32-bit. I believe I jacked up the memory to use 4 gigs. My little box here that I'm running on, I believe it has 16 gigs of memory total. And I believe it is an 8-core processor, or it's a quad-core, but it is hyper-threading, so it's an 8-core processor. So I have quite a few resources to actually work with off of here. We're also streaming on this same box, too, so I'm virtualizing and streaming. And it looks about almost 6 megs. So we're doing quite a bit of streaming, some high power or some decent power streaming here. So yeah, so she has those VMs ready for download. They're OVA files. You just pop them into VirtualBox, and you can get those up. There are some instructions on guest editions. I ended up having, although she said it's not necessary, I did end up going through and installing the shared folders for iNetSim, because for some reason the drag and drop, copy and paste bidirectional feature in the guest editions for VirtualBox wasn't quite working. It worked for the Windows Victim, but for some reason VirtualBox is just being VirtualBox. It sucks, but it's free, as some people were saying last night. That's fine. So we had some failures there, and so we had to work to get across that barrier there. So we got into that. We went through. We pinged. All that good stuff. We may do that just to make sure we can still do that. And then she gives us the anatomy of a PE. She goes through Windows architecture. This is all very good stuff. I'm going to end up uploading this to YouTube on a channel that's going to be specifically for either myself or the channel Fail Along With Me. I'll get that taken care of later. You can follow my Twitter, Fail Along With Me, or Odd Job, and I will have that stuff. But this is really good stuff you need to get anyway. Again, you can go to malwareunicorn.org, or you can go to secured.org, and you can find this information. But she has wonderful PowerPoint animations that she created, and it just goes through and shows you what all of the stack is doing, what gets loaded where, headers, shows you in what relevant parts, memory locations that stuff is going to exist in. She just does a very good job. She shows you about memory layout, where the stack is, where the heap is, where the program image is, DLLs. So she does all that stuff. I'm not even going to pretend to understand all of that quite yet. There is still plenty of stuff I need to understand and know. Important to remember, though, that the stack, whenever we see a base pointer, that is registers that are used to store references in the stack frame. So kind of important to remember where different pointers actually exist and live, so that way you kind of know where in memory you're talking about. Let's see here. Assembly language, important to remember that some things, that x86 is little endian, so multi-byte values, sometimes attributes maybe, they're going to be written by the least significant byte first. So as you can see here on our stream, where A0, A1, A2, and A3 may be something we're going to see, it's going to be stored kind of in those reverse orders. So those could be attributes, they could be multiple parameters that we've got to load in. It's going to load it kind of back to front instead of front to back. So just kind of remember that. A bunch of opcodes, and most of what you need to know here, and I'm just blazing past this, I read through this yesterday. Most of what you seem to need to remember for this is you have data movement, data access stuff with move and LEA. You have add and subtract, usually for counters and some other stuff. Sometimes when you want to move memory or instructions, not instructions, but memory or reference points, there's some additions and subtractions going on there. You have your ORs and XORs. Important to remember there. OR means if you have, for instance, two conditionals here. I want to make sure my devil's horns pop up here. If you basically have two different conditions, for instance, you could say, I don't know. You could just say this is true or false, and this is true or false. So an OR, I could say this or this. If this is true and this is true, the statement is true. If this is false and this is true, the statement is true. And also, if this is true and this is false, the statement is true. Both have to be false in order for the statement to be false. That's an OR. That's a traditional OR. An XOR is an exclusive OR, which means you cannot have both be true. This is a false statement under an XOR. However, this is a true statement. This is a true statement. This is a false statement. That's a false statement. So just kind of keep that in mind. XORs are very good for kind of comparing, I guess, kind of seeing which one's true and passing. It has to be either one or the other kind of thing for two conditions or multiples. There's some logic things. Some of the important stuff we saw last time were the returns, the enters, the calls. Calls are very important because now we're calling a function. Pushes, where we're actually putting things, we're kind of instantiating our variables, if you will. We're pushing stuff into buffers or registers, whatever those are called. The very important thing, though, is the jumps. And we're going to be seeing a lot of jumps as we're going back through a program. So we may have something interesting. We may notice, for instance, HTTP GET requests. And so we have a user agent string we're looking for that's interesting. You might notice that if you ever do snort or other types of stuff, you're always interested in that. You might build a YAR rule around that. Well, we can also find similar stuff in the program because somehow you've got to assemble the HTTP request. So you might look for some of that stuff in there in the code as a string. And if you can do that, then you can go and see what jumped to that. And so you can start going and seeing how that was called, until you get to the actual main function of the program. And then you can start seeing how it actually goes through and calls and does the various things. Because it can fork in different ways. She gives some example instructions. We have registers that are for general purpose. Anytime you see an EAX, those are registers. Anytime you see an I, those are indexes. P's are pointers. So those are kind of important to remember. We have flags. I don't know the importance of every single one of these flags yet. So again, we're learning. Here is basically hello world in C code and then popped into assembly, which is with all the pushes, the moves, the ands, all that good stuff. And then off to the right, she's showing basically functionally what's going on with the registers, the pointers, and what's going on in the stack. So she's showing here what happens when a function is called. So we have all these parameters are getting loaded, again in little endian, and then that gets called. So, and then we see local variables on the stack. Yep. And then, yeah. And then basically resetting that to 0. Okay, cool. She talks about attack flow. She talks about the different classes of malware, viruses, ransomware, Trojans. So all that's good stuff. She talks about packers and how people are trying to compress malware so that they can kind of escape. But honestly, most of these packers are known about. If someone's customizing a packer or something, that's going to make it tougher. But they're all using most of the same packers for most of the malware out there. Obfuscation, basically in the source code, they're going to try and change all the variables to a bunch of random characters. Obviously, they have to stay consistent, but they're just trying to obfuscate. Doesn't always throw off the reverser, though. It shouldn't, because at the end of the day, you still have to have text that is understood by the computer. By the processor, and as you're going through and reversing it from a basic, almost a machine instruction level, when you're looking at the assembly language, you're looking at how the hardware is going to interpret that. So, you kind of get past that obfuscation. So, not really much there that's going to help someone from getting reverse engineered. She shows kind of the common to rare, simple to sophisticated types of persistence that exists. We will see a level of persistence on the malware that we're looking at. And for most of these, she also has a sample and link to VirusTotal. So you might be able to download this malware or see what it's doing. Defense evasions, we see killing AV, deleting itself after a run, stealing certificates. Credential theft, Mimikatz, we see that all the time. People are loading Mimikatz into their tools. yeah, so all that stuff is there. That's important. We started learning about our tools, disassemblers, debuggers, decompilers, information gathering with Procmon and all that good stuff. Helpful websites. Hybrid analysis is one that I like. If you ever have a piece of malware or a file that you want to see what it does, you don't have a cuckoo box, you don't have a FireEye, you don't have Wildfire or something like that at home, then put it up on hybrid analysis. Be very careful. Make sure that whatever you're throwing up there doesn't actually have proprietary information, doesn't have someone else's information. We need to be very responsible when we put stuff on the hybrid analysis. With VirusTotal, you don't have to upload the malware. You can just upload a hash to see if anybody's seen it before. You can do the same with hybrid analysis. Has anybody seen this malware before? Well, feed it the hash. And then figure out, if hybrid analysis has seen it. If it has, you get a nice little report showing you what all it did on hybrid analysis systems. So a nice tool, nice websites to be able to look at stuff. Yep. So an IDA Pro, an IDA Free rather, stuff here to take a look at. She just kind of gives you an overall idea of what it's going to look like. The debugger and what that's going to look like. Let's see here. The CFF Explorer, what that's going to look like. And Procmon, what that's going to look like. Cool. So the first thing we did is we downloaded the unknown RE zip file. And what we wanted to do is basically start a checklist of what we wanted to do. So we wanted to look at the file context and delivery. We wanted to ask ourselves questions of, did this come in on an email? Did it come from a browser download? Was it quarantined in antivirus? These are things as an analyst or as a incident responder, or even as just simply someone who's taking a look at this stuff. If someone has handed you a file and says, hey, I need to see if this is malicious, ask them about the delivery method. That can give you interesting ideas as to how someone's targeting you, what they're targeting you with. You can collect strings out of it to see if there's anything interesting, and you can kind of grep through or see if there's HTTP, if you can see if there's user agent strings in there. There's a lot of interesting things. You can see if there's someone going to a .com or a .org or a .net. Those generally will tell you if there's a command and control server out there that they're looking by a DNS lookup. So anyway, there's a lot of interesting things you can do to look through those types of things. Check AV vendors. Do the VirusTotal search via the hash. The quick VM detonation. So if you have a FireEye, if you have a cuckoo box, if you have something that you could detonate it, if you have this lab environment, it'll notice that it's ransomware, something like that. You'll see a little pop-up. Just make sure you don't connect your actual VM to a real network. We're not connected on the real network with our box. It's a totally, it's an internal to virtual box interface. Separate segment. It's not even actually part of any network out there. It's just an internal virtualized thing. So that's great. And then capture network information. You can use Wireshark. You can use a lot of other things to see what's coming out of that virtual machine. So all that stuff. We did some of that. So basically, when we looked it up, we saw MZ with the first two bytes. That's the 4D and 5A. Those are 2 bytes. And so that determined to us that this is a PE binary. Also, this program cannot be run in DOS mode. Kind of also a little bit of a giveaway as to what this is. So since it's a since it's a PE binary, we can put .exe at the end of it and make it executable in Windows. And basically what we also did is we opened this up in the CFF Explorer. We found out that it was using kernel 32 DLL and user 32.dll. And we were actually able to see what things out of each of those kernels it was going to actually call. And we got to see where it's going to call it. So we got to actually see find resource A and create process A. The create process A was very interesting because now it's creating a process. Interesting. What's it going to create? So those are notes that you take down just to see what's going on, and you'll want to look for those later in your sample. and see what the process A is actually doing. And you can look at that dynamically, or you can actually statically go through and see that. So the bin text, again, bin text 3.0.3. This tool basically is like strings for Windows. It's going to go through and pull out all the strings, the file position, but also the memory position once it's loaded in memory. So the offsets will be different, but the actual locations, I think it's the last 2 bytes, should be fairly the same as it goes through. And then a quick detonation. Actually, just doing it, seeing what the sniffer sees. We saw that Wireshark was picking up an HTTP request. We were able to follow that stream, and we were able to see that it was what it was doing to a degree. We were able to see the DNS request for the evil domain, and then we looked into the actual Process Explorer, Procmon, and Proc Explorer. We were able to see what processes it spun up. So that was good. Let me see what else here. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. So yeah, and then we had tools. So now section 5. This is the thing I want to do over. I want to get back into section 5 here and do this over and see what's going to happen. I'm not going to need my sniffer, but I will turn on the victim. That sounded wrong. I am so sorry. I will turn on the victim machine. Yay, and we're only 30 minutes into the stream. So what I've done here is I have restored this to the pre-execution state. You'll notice I have unknown.exe here. Don't pay attention to that. I have unknown.exe here. And so basically what that's doing is I've already got that on there. I have not executed it though on this save state. So it's not a game. It's a virtual machine. But I have snapshots going. So I have an after infection. I have the clean state. And then I have a clean start. Right now I think I'm working on the after infection state. So I actually believe I am currently infected. But what we're going to do is we're going to pop into IDA-free. And we actually found out this portrait here for IDA is not Ada Lovelace, who, you know, gave us so much to be thankful for in programming, even back in the day. This is some other chick, and apparently they were just looking for a logo for IDA Pro, and this was like the only picture they could pick off to put on the CD or pick off a CD. So this is what we get. Important to hydrate. And just wanted to double check if anybody's in the stream right now and wants to check my volume. Let me know how the volume's doing. Is it too much? Not enough? Let me know. I can accommodate. I hope you're not jerks such that I've been talking this entire time, moving my lips, and you haven't actually been hearing anything of what I'm saying. So cool. So what we've done is I just selected to open up our unknown exe. You can see down to the bottom left. I don't think I can highlight it, but you can see that it's still going through and doing its auto analysis, and it's going through all of the memory that's just been instantiated or set up, and it's just kind of doing that. So what it did there is it formed this graphical representation of what's going on. So that's awfully nice. Let's see, the next thing that we were supposed to do is press R on each of these pushes, except for the last push. Okay, and then what we wanted to do is we wanted to take a look at our strings off to the right here. So on the right hand side in strings, in fact, yeah, you should be able to see that. So we see the I'm totally not malware. We also see stage2.exe. So we find a lot of the interesting stuff in the strings window. There's interesting there. I don't know what that is. But yeah, so we see some of the stuff we should expect, like kernel 32.dll, user 32.dll. We saw all that in previous stuff. So there's a lot of things here we might be interested in, but I want to follow her instructions, the destructions, I might call them. And I want to actually see what's going on. So, in Lab 2, yep, so we changed all of those. And she wants us to take a look at the stage2.exe. I'm going to put my instructions off to the right. I am sorry, but you will be able to see, you'll be able to follow along if you want. I'm going to pop this back up. So she wants us to go down to double click on the string stage2.exe. That pops this in here. We see the astage2_exe. And when we hit basically when we place the cursor on its reference label, which it looks like we're doing here, when I press the X button, we should come up with 41,000 B0, which we do here because you see the plus B0. So that's telling us where actually in that line it is. So I'm going to, let's see here. So place the cursor on that. In the xref, select the address. This will take you to where it's referenced. Okay. So I'm going to bring up a little notepad here. And I was already starting to do that. So this is my second attempt. So let's do second attempt. And I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to grow up out of this. So I'm going to say so we did this at 004020 or 02, yeah, 402064. And this was the astage2_exe and called, or no, this was a push. Yes. So this was referenced by, it looks like sub 401000 plus B0. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to pop this over here. And I'm going to click OK. Aha. So now this pops me down here. Very nice. I can spacebar to go into this view here. So this is a push offset, stage2.exe. So that's kind of important. So here this is 004010B0, and I'm going to say this was a push offset astage2_exe, and this is stage.exe. Now, this is part of this, and what we need to now figure out is how did we get here? So I believe this is now where we're going to follow the jump up. Gotcha. So basically, this is how we now track it back. We can scroll up to basically to where you see one of these. So this is a jump. So when I pop this in here, so this is where we start kind of trying to figure out how this stuff works. Okay. So this was a jump instruction. So what this is saying is we're going to be jumping and we're going to be coming down to this location. And then here's a little marker showing this location. So this is just saying this thing, jump down here and start doing this. So we have find resource A, we have size of resource, load resource. There is a separate jump down here for a jump 0 that we didn't follow because this wasn't part. This is actually showing this little LOC off to the left. This is showing where this jump begins, or where this call begins, and it's called by this jump up here at section there. Okay. So, what I want to say then in my notes is 004010 for C called by jump, a JBE actually, at 00401048. Okay. And then, okay, so we've got that. So I'm getting my notes put together here. Okay, so now we got to figure out this short here, this jump. It is basically referenced up here by this. Okay, and we have LOC things. So then this is 00401030 called by JMP. And again, because we've highlighted this, it shows the highlight where it was called from. So we have a JMP there, which is just simply a jump, which means once it gets to that line in the code, it will jump. This is a control flow. It is a command. There's no JZE to say, or JZ to say 0, then we're going to jump, or not. It's not a conditional jump. It is a jump. Let's see here. So we're going to look. So let's see, called JMP. Let's see, at called by. And called by is probably not the proper term for that, because it's I don't know if that's really considered a function or not. But it makes sense. Oh, makes sense for what I'm doing. Nope, we need to make sure we have the proper one. 00410323. There we go. Yep. And so that's what that is. Okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to see where that starts. And this is sub 4000. This is here. So now I need to find out. So this is part of sub. Okay. And so this is sub. Alright, so this is what this is. Cool. So this is called sub 401000. Okay, so what is she telling me here? She has a nice little thing here where she goes up. She goes to that 1030. She then notices this 40,000. Ah, so this is the beginning of the function. Okay. So basically I can hit this LOC, but then once we come here, I can hit X. And this is from a call by, and that called at 00401197. Okay, so then we get there. So that was called. Where was this called from? Okay, so now we have 00401194 called, and I need to figure out exactly where that comes from now, so I can hit over here, X, and this looks like a start of a loop. Yep. So it's looping back. and then calling 41,000. So this looks like it's the beginning of the actual main program, I think. Because here's all the pushes, so these are all the values that are going in. Maybe it's not. It looks like there's still a few things that are being done here. But yeah, this is a subroutine. So where is this actually being called? So we have a start. So we have a start. Is that just where it starts? Let me read up through here. Let's actually look at the graphical view. Okay. Okay. No. Let's look at this back there. No, not the hex view. Graphical view. Where'd my graphical view go? Did I just ruin my graphical view? Hex view A. I think I just did that. I think I just ruined it. Views. Graph view. There we go. There we go. Perfect. See, we mess up, and then we figure out how to get rid of that. Okay, so back into this. I'm going to go down to where that begins again. This is a very cool. This is a very cool thing. So there's that. So here's the start. So I'm going to pop down here, and I'm going to go there. Okay, so this is the start. Oh, so this is start. So this is public start, start proc near. Okay, so this is literally the start of the program. So we got back to the start of the program. That makes complete sense now. That's right, because of how memory gets loaded. Okay. So this is the start of that, and basically, yeah, it's coming down here, and then it's doing a loop. And then it comes down here, there's a return, and then it loops. So sub 4000 gets called. And then, yeah. So that's pretty simple to understand. Cool. Cool. So, I think I've got the flow here. And let's see if it matches with Malware Unicorn's flow. Because I think I've got it. So let's pop down here. Yep. Okay. So, I've got, we start, and then we're going to call 41,000. Yep. And then we we jump. We do a jump at so we do a jump at 23. At 10:23 we do a jump, and then we do another jump at 10:48, and then we do another jump at, or do we do a create file? Okay, so I missed that. So we got so from stage2.exe we got that taken care of, but I'm missing the part where she has a CB. That's not a mistake. What's CB here? What is 41 10 CB? What's 10 CB? Don't know. Uh, 10 CB. Ah, okay, so there's the create file A. Okay. Okay, so what was I supposed to do with that? Pop back into this. Okay. So I have the 48s. So I have 4C getting called by 48. Okay, so all right, so let's shift out of that view and just go up here. I feel like I've missed something. Because you see I've missed this jump somehow. So we got here, and then we have location, yeah, so we have this here that's being called. And that. Okay. So let's create file A. There we go. Create file A here. And then that's called at location. So that's called here. That's at 7C, which I think I'm missing that one. Because then we have 4C. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because 4C was called by 48. So we went up. We didn't go down to see what else was going on. I see. I see. Okay. So I think also what we were seeing is we're seeing a split in the program possibly too. So possible fork here. And so, okay. So I see what we're doing here. So we do a start, then the program. So let's see here. Let me see if I get this right. Start, and then we call the call sub. So starting this subroutine, and then jump at jump to 4010300303. There we go, and then JBE to 4010 4C. Okay, so that's this. And then I think there is a fork. So now we have two things that you can possibly do. Which the first is doing this. So this splits. So I'm going to do OO. Zero with push offset stage.exe thing. At the same time, There's also a JZ to 40113D. Okay. So then we have another jump of some kind. That's referenced. And then we have, so once we jump to here, okay, so that's that. So let's come back in here because I messed up something again. Luckily, I'm able to find my way back, which is a very important thing. So it looks like there's another branching off point for this. So if there's a 0 here, okay, so looks like it's maybe part of the loop. If false, it goes back someplace, or rather forward, and then I think it loops back in. So that there is part of the loop. But then at some point there is a jump 0 for this guy, which is the 11.3c. So let me pop back into this. And then we have a JZ for 40113C. Still not what we're looking for. So we're back there. Oh, so it's the same short. Okay. So there's a call for this subroutine. D. Okay, so that's part of the loop. That's part of a loop. Except that goes way on down there. And that also goes down there. And that also goes down there. And then suppose things go in there. Huh. Alright, let's make sense of this again. So she's saying there's a create file at 10 CB. And there's also a JBE at 1048. So let's go back up to 1048. Let's see here, I have a page down. 1048. Yeah, so there's a 1048 that calls that. So yes, so we jump there, and once we jump here, okay, so if it's not 0, we then go here. I'm looking for that CB. of course we're seeing the actual creation. We're actually seeing the string, we're seeing the offset stage AAXE, we're seeing stage 2.exe. So all that stuff's getting in there, and then call create file A. So that's why that goes in there. Okay, so let's not get so complicated here. Let's just go to the interesting thing we're looking at. There's a JBE to 10.4c, and then it looks like a call create file A at 4010cb. So there's that, and then there's also supposed to be a create process at 11:36. Okay. So then I create process. And these are notes, you know, again, we're finding these interesting things. We're showing where they're getting called by. We're jumping, we're coming down in here and seeing how this works. So stage 2 of this process now. Make a rough path to follow for deeper analysis. In IDA, go to the strings tab, look for more interesting strings. You should see look what you made me do. Similar to the first executable, follow the string to the... Oh, okay. So what we need to do now is we're going to open up, don't pack the database. Yes. So we're going to open up something else now. Because when the malware executed, it created another file in our victim app data roaming. And that actually hasn't been created yet because I haven't allowed it to infect. Let's see if it will. Probably not if I don't have the sniffer going. We'll see. Totally not malware. Cool. Good to know it's totally not malware. Totally. Yeah, we can get rid of that. So again, computer, local disk C, users, victim, app data, roaming. Ah, there we go. So this is what we're going to use to open this up. I can just drag and drop it down there. There it is. Bam. And yep. That looks good. Cool. Okay. So. So this now is a persistence mechanism we're looking at. And off to the right here in the strings, we see definitely not evil.com, which is the domain it's trying to get out to. We see OTE. We also see look what you made me do. So let's see what we made you do. Cool. So we actually see these characters object names. So this is a data referenced. It looks like it's data referenced at 1065. So I can do an X to see where that is. Yep. So there's where it's pushed into memory. So there. Cool. So again, we'll create a little map here. So this is stage2.exe. And I'm going to work backwards here. So we went from look what you made me do. Isn't this sexy, people? Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this what all the movies made you think reverse engineering was going to be like? Okay, so we've got that. So I'm going to put in the memory location we found this at, which was 401065 push. Where is it pushing it into? Okay, so there's an offset that's named object data name. Okay. Okay, and so now this is part of this instruction set. We're going to go up and we're going to see where this area is called from. It is part of subroutine. It is part of the subroutine. So sub. So that's called. All right. So I believe that's actually at the beginning, at the start. So. Yep. So called from 04011176. Okay. And then if we come up here, start. Okay, so what we've got so far. Nope. So what we've got so far is 04176 call there. Yeah, there we go. And then, yeah, and then once that we're in there, at here we push. Cool, look what you made me do. Alright, so that's what that looks like right there. We could look through and see what else it's making us do. Pardon me. So right here where we see call sub, right there is what we have here. So let's go back down there and let's see what's going on. Actually, let's go back up there. Right there. So bam. So now we're at sub 41,000. And we want to look at here at this. Look at what you made me do. We also see this definitely not evil being put in there. So that's cool. That's interesting. But we see this 1176. 1176 is there. So this is now in graph mode. 40ch. There's a comparison she's talking about. And I want to see exactly what she's talking about. She's saying at 1169, giggity. At 1169. Okay, so we're seeing 1169 and then 1176. Ah, okay. So that's called. So once that gets called, then what it's doing is it's comparing a byte at pointer EBP. So that's a pointer 104H. Okay. What's at 104H? actually be something. Oh, that's a pointer. Okay. That's why. Okay. And so it looks like what we're doing here is we're comparing what is at there. What did we do before that? So it looks like we moved something into 10.4h, and then we moved pointer.h to 0. So it looked like we cleared that pointer, that variable there at that location. Then what we did is we called sub 41,000, and now we're comparing the byte in pointer there to 6ch. If that is not 0, then so basically if that's not true, or rather if it is true, then we jump to there. It's not true. Wait, let me think here. Not 0, so yeah. So if it's not 0, we go here. If it is 0, then we compare this other thing to 6dh. If that's not 0, then we go there. If not, we compare again and compare again. The goal, though, looks like it's basically looping back around. Where is that loop? 12. So push, call the exit process. So basically just cut it. So if those things aren't there, just go ahead and cut it. Okay. That makes sense. So let's do an X. Yep. So there we are. Okay, so what is she saying about this? She is saying it was used in the function where it was doing the HTTP request. However, a buffer was an argument to this function. Unlike the instruction push, LEA, reg some address, is another way to add arguments. The register EDI stores the address of the buffer. The excerpt below shows the buffer being given to sub 41,000. That same buffer is compared against 6ch. So we see that here, this index, and then we see a move, and then we see a call, and then we see a compare. Okay, so I guess this is buffers using to store stuff. The register stores the address of the buffer. And then we're seeing the HTTP request results. So you know that EDI contains the address of the buffer. The buffer is given to internet read files, so when the response data from Definitely Not Evil, Look What You Made Me Do will be placed into the buffer. And then there's a buffer check. The resulting buffer will contain bytes that will be compared against 6ch, 6dh, 61h, and 6fh. And so, yeah, so there's the pseudocode for what we were looking for, which was if that stuff's not there, then exit. If you follow the address of the branching jumps instructions, it will take you to the exit of the program. But this is not what you want. You will need to bypass these branch statements in order to see what happens after the received HTTP response. And this is the part of the program we will need to control from a debugger. Okay, so cool. Okay, so this is where we're at then. So basically what we've got a loop. And so we've got a program, stage2.exe, that is basically not by itself in the current way we have things. It's not going to go where we want it to go. So right now it's just going to exit. But what if we made that buffer for the first if statement 6c? What if we made the buffer for the second segment, or the second if statement? What if we made that buffer say 6d, 6.1, and 6f? Well, it will continue on to go where it needs to go. So what happens? That's why we need to go to a debugger. Because in a debugger, we are able to actually manipulate everything. So here's the Hacker Man animation. And this is where we left off. So I'm probably going to try to do this until the second hour of the stream, and then I'm going to cut it because it doesn't look like there's actually much going on here. So that'll probably be what we do and finish this out. And then we'll kind of finish out and talk about what we might do in the future. Just a second. Just having some of my Perrier lime. Because I'm fancy like that. So, dynamic analysis is a deeper analysis of the program to understand hidden functionality not understood statically. The static analysis will serve as a guide for stepping through the program in a debugger. Open stage2.exe into the 32dbg.exe. And IDA free. Okay, so we need to open up the other tool set. There we go. And we're going to open up you guys in the chat are awful quiet. How are you guys doing? Cool. Still looking at that. Time wasted debugging. I love it. The bottom right section of the debugger, it actually says time wasted debugging. That's funny. I like it. So off to the left, the main screen. Pardon me. That is our actual code that we're looking at. It looks like the offsets are very different than what we're looking at in IDA, so I think there's going to be something we do to match that up. And then off to the right, there's some other stuff. So we will figure out what's going on as we read. Getting to the entry point. Okay, remember to use the F2 breakpoints, F7 step into, F8 step over, F9 run keys to navigate through the debugger. If you accidentally run past the end of the program, you can always restart by clicking. Cool. At the entry point, by pressing the right arrow in the top menu or debug run. So let's do a debug run. So cool. So that was the entry point of our code. That's fine. So now we're running the program in this debugger. I'm going to take this off so I can easily read what I'm doing here. And so we can set a breakpoint by clicking the dot next to the address. So I can say this is going to be a breakpoint. So we want to note this place. Set a breakpoint in the JNE instruction at 1182. So that's the JNE right here we see where it goes to stage2.exe is what I believe that's going to say. 4012 E6, that should be, well, maybe it's not exe. I don't know. This is now a breakpoint, and we see that it starts another function here. So we get some of that IDA Pro level of analysis here where it shows exactly where this is going to go. Okay, so we're setting a breakpoint there, and now we can hit run. So run. Okay, I hit run. Cool. So we are there. Yeah, for some reason I don't think that worked. So Move here, run. Entry. Okay. And then, oh wait, no, not there. Run. And we can set a breakpoint there. Breakpoint enabled. Okay. So when we hover over here, so now we want to manipulate the control flow instructions so that we can get to the code after the buffer check. Continue to step to the J&E. So the step through, let me see if I can remember what my stepping is. Step into, okay, so step into, okay, so now we're down here to this. I want to step back then. So we're waiting for this thing to run. It's paused. So DLL loaded. Okay, so there we're at our breakpoint. Okay, so it stopped at our breakpoint, and we need to take this ZF and we need to manipulate the result from 1 to 0. Well, it's currently not there. It currently is 0. Did I do the wrong thing? Okay. Oh, so she means 0 to 1. So this needs to be changed to a 1. So we're going to step into. Okay. We come down here. We're going to step into this with 1. So notice that we're not going to the end of the program. We're going to step into again, and then we're going to change that to 1. And we're going to step into again. And I think she changes that from 0 to 1 once more. Okay. So now we step into the next one. Okay, so now we're there. Alright, cool. Oh. Interesting. We're shutting down. Okay, is this just the fact that we're using the type of Windows system we're using? so let's continue reading here while this boots up. By knowing what the executable is expecting, you will be able to fake a server to set that sends that information because it's looking for many rats, remote access trojans, and bots rely on specific responses in order to perform their duties. By reversing them, you can recreate the response. Once you have bypassed those 4 branched instructions, go ahead and run the rest of the program to collect the last flag. As a malware analyst, it is your job to summarize the functionality and relationships of the binaries. Here's a brief summary of what is happening. Cool. So let's pop in here. Okay, so victim again. RE101 2017 is the password for these. Yes, RE101 2017. Yes. Ask me later. These are cool. She got these from Windows or Microsoft rather. So these are cool. We don't have anything technically illegal going on here. We're not using these for live environments or even really environments. These are purely academic. We want to load this into our tool set. Not that though. So let's open this and let's go into computer again, into here. Let's do program files. No. Let's do users, victim, app data, roaming, stage2.exe. Okay. So, cool. Let's pause there. Breakpoint enabled. Okay, so it remembers the breakpoints. So it's running. So then we get to do this all over again, which is fine because it's a reinforcement. So once it loads everything and it starts going, it goes down there, bam, there it's there. I can change this to a 1. I can step through, do a 1, step to the next one, step to the next thing, and we'll do a 1, step to the next thing, step to the next thing, and we'll do a 1 there. And we will do a run. So it's currently running. And we will see what happens. Okay, let's try this again. Run. It's going to hit the breakpoint. Oh, run. Run. Okay, there we go. There we go. So we're going to pop in a 1 here. And we're going to step into the next one. I don't know what the ZF flag is, actually. Oh, it's bit 6. So it's a 2-bit, 8-bit. So it's bit 6. Set if the word result to 0. Otherwise, cleared otherwise. Oh, okay. That's cool. And 1. So I can step, and now run. Application 1 from policy succeeded. Looks like shake it off is something that's going to happen down here. So is there something that's supposed to pop up? Oh, look at that. There it is. There's the flag. Flag. That was easy. Cool. Okay. So there's what we were looking for all along. There we go. I probably wasn't seeing it because it popped up behind us. Cool. Awesome. So this is what that stage 2.exe would have done. So I was noticing stage 2.exe was actually going to be loading in an image. And so what's going on there is I think there's a registry key also that is set based on some of the stuff we saw earlier. So there's a registry key that is set, and basically whenever an image is loaded, it then is going out and establishing some persistence. So it's a reverse shell mechanism here. So it goes ahead and has already set the registry key to say, hey, if you ever open up an image, then do this, and then yeah, this is what this opens. Or rather, opening up an image is anyway. There was something to do with the registry key earlier. So here's what's basically going on. Unknown.exe will load the first flag in the stack. It will then extract a file from resources and create stage2.exe in app data folder. It will run the stage2.exe as a new process, so that was the create new process. Stage2.exe will call out to definitely-not-evil.com, look what you made me do, and wait to see LMAO as the response. So those were the 4 JNEs we were actually noticing. So that was the L, the M, the A, and the O. It will then create a new message box that contains an image with the second flag. So that's what that image box actually was. So cool. So that's it. That's Malware Unicorn's malware reversing course. It's a 101. It's to get you used to the tools that are being used. This is not at all an exhaustive thing, but it is a way to get you started. It's a way to get you looking at, seeing the loops, seeing what branch instructions are doing. So perhaps there is some malware we can look at later. Maybe some real malware that you can actually detonate or take a look at with IDA Pro or IDA Free or the debugger, and can actually go through and see what's going on. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to run the debugger unless you have a virtualized machine like this, because with the debugger, you could end up actually running code, because this is very important. I was running that debugger, kind of like when you debug your code in the compiler, it will run. This will also run your code. So very important to remember that, the code is going to be run. So don't do this on your own system. Get a virtual system. Create a virtual system with VirtualBox. She goes through how to set that up in the first section. Again, it's all VirtualBox based. So free, very well established stuff there. So that's it for this. Basically, I can do this multiple different ways from now. I can take a look at doing a cuckoo sandbox. Since we're doing malware reversal, maybe I set up a cuckoo sandbox in my lab. Perhaps I get a Pi-hole going so that we start doing some DNS stuff as well as Raspberry Pi stuff. I could set up an Elasticsearch head or Elk Stack with Logstash and Kibana. Maybe Graylog. There's a lot of different things I can do to just because I've never done those things before. So you know, I can just make that stuff and for the first time ever and do that. At some point, I do want to look at Malware Unicorn's Zori tool. It's basically an automated way of doing a lot of stuff that we just did, doing the disassembly for us, doing some of the debugging for us, and just showing us exactly what this thing is doing. So I could do that. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, let me know either by reaching out to me at FailAlongWithMe on Twitter, or since this is on YouTube, leave a comment in the comment section. And you can also get me at Oddjob, that's 0DDJ0BB, on Twitter as well. But until then, this stream is done, and thank you guys very much for watching. And don't forget to go to Malware Unicorn's Twitter as well and take a look at her stuff and give her props for all the great work that she did. I mean, I'm working off of her stuff, but all the great work she's done for you to make it to where you too can learn malware reverse engineering. Thank you guys. We'll see you in the next one.